Hello everybody, we are very excited to receive you at the Asia Pacific Conference of Young Scientists APCYS 2021. My name is Jimena and I will be joining all of you throughout the week. Today is the first day of activities and we are very honored to welcome Mr. Paul Zavala, who will talk about nanomaterials in the medicine field. Mr. Zavala is a PhD materials engineering professor at the University of Sonora, with over 7 years of experience in research and teaching. He is the head coordinator of the Bachelor of Science in Materials Engineering program for the 2016-2022 period. His studies include a PhD in biophysics from the University of Cambridge and a degree in chemical engineering from the University of Sonora. He is currently interested in the development of projects based on bio-nano engineering. To all the audience, at the end of the conference, you can join us in the question and answer section through our social media accounts. Mr. Zavala, the mic is yours.
There. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's
Perfect. Sorry about that. Thank you very much for the kind introduction. And thanks. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers of these conferences for the kind invitation that they give me. And well, thank all of you for being here. Well, for me this morning, probably for you it's quite late now. As the introduction said, I will talk about nanomaterials in medicine, and particularly what is known as nanomedicine. Well, from that point of view, when I was younger, like close to finish high school and getting to the university, I was a little bit on the size of what I want to do with my life. I have I don't know how to say it, a knack, a kind of ability with chemistry and physics. And that, like maybe a lot of you are kind on this right now, have this feeling like, maybe I can be a medic doctor, you know, like cure people and everything, especially with all these new series like Grey's Anatomy and stuff like that. But I don't know, I was feeling like I want to make something more, I don't know, how can I say this, like scientific. So I was thinking about, well, how can I use chemistry, physics, biology, and applying to medicine? So working with this, learning from here, reading from there, I get into the account of the fields of nanotechnology, in particular, the materials in nanotechnology. So what is nanotechnology? Nanotechnology is a field that is growing with the time. It has already, it's a few decades of let's see, industrial and commercial application. Nanotechnology refers to the design and application of materials, different type of materials, devices like, well, computers, for example, cell phones and everything, in which that scale that it works are around 1 in 100 nanometers. And this is a number that we shouldn't take it easily. It's a very, very small system. So I will try to explain what is a nanometer. A nanometer, if we would talk about like a scientific point of view, we can describe like 10 to the minus 9 meters. But maybe that doesn't tell you too much. But a nanometer is a scale of measure, especially a scale of size. Like maybe we are more used to the kilo right now, like 1,000 grams, 1,000 meters in the case of the kilometer. And from the technology point of view, maybe we are used to the megabyte, gigabyte, and lately terabyte. Okay, but all these scales, kilo, mega, giga, and tera, are for bigger things. But what happened in the other side? We go to the smaller side. And that's where another type of scales can be used, like millimeter, micrometer, and nanometer. So just to give you an idea, all of us live in a macro, what is known as a macro world, usually with the unit of scale of meter. Like, for example, this is me. Usually I'm standing. So right now I'm sitting in a chair, but I'm a little bit fat, my glass and everything. I measure around 1.75 nanometers, sorry. But if we take that meter size and we divide it 1,000 times, we get into the millimeter, okay? Things like certain tissues are in the millimeter size, like the thickness of our nails, the thickness of our hair, the thickness of our skin is in the millimeter size, okay? Let's divide that again 1,000 times more. Okay, let's get, like, we got a meter, we divided 1,000 times, and we are in the thickness of, I don't know, our hair, for example. So now our hair, let's divide it 1,000 times more. We got into the micrometer world. Okay, micrometer world, where you can find things like cells, bacteria, even some viruses, small things that from this point of view are not available to be seen by naked eye, not even with my glasses. You need something stronger, like the microscope. That's the name of the microscope, actually. That's where it comes from microscopes, from micro world. Okay, but bacteria, viruses, and other micro elements, they are not units of stuff. They are made of different stuff. Bacteria and cells have its own organs known as organelles. Like they have their stomach, they have their own skin, they have different things that are even smaller than those. That's why the need of divide the micro, okay, another 1,000 times. And that's the scale when we reach into the nano world. Okay, nano world is used to measure these things, like, for example, in bacteria and in cells, like the proteins of which the bacteria is made, the cell membrane, DNA, and even in the smaller scale, you can find molecules like the sugar that the cells eat, the lipids from which the cell membrane is made. And even here in the corner, you can see one of the smaller molecules from live water, in this case, that is like 1/10 of a nanometer. So just to give you an idea what we're talking about with nano, something that is quite small, specifically from the biological point of view. Okay. Well, oh, sorry. So what about this nanotechnology? We know that it's smaller already. Maybe some of you have heard about that, oh, the nanotechnology is the future. No, it's not the future. It's already in the present. It's evolving quite fast, but it's not the future. Just to give you an idea, nanotechnology can be traced back from the beginning of the 2000s, especially in the electronic point of view. It's something that is very, very useful in electronics, in the fabrication of transistors, everything that it works from the microchips. Well, maybe now nanochips, I don't know. Like, for example, in 2013-14, the transistor size was around 20 nanometers. Okay. 2015-16, 10 nanometers. Right now, the most update microchip technology is in the range of 5 nanometers. Okay, just to give you an idea, 5 nanometers, that's around 50 molecules of water. It's really, really small. Okay, and it's not planned to stop there. Intel, for example, is developed already, is 20 Armstrong, that is another unit, but it's technically 2 nanometer size transistor for the development of the transistors of 2025, I think. Okay, and a lot of application of this nanotechnology is used not only in electronics. Like, for example, you can find in some solar cell technology and mechanical developments, and specifically from this point of view, from the biology point of view, sensors and biosensors. Like, for example, a pregnancy test. If any of you have the good luck or maybe bad luck of the need of use a pregnancy test, you are using nanotechnology. Okay, like for example, a standard pregnancy test use some nanoparticles, usually known as colloids, that have these molecules in the surface that interact with hormones in blood, especially that hormones that are produced when a person is pregnant. So when the urine or blood is interact with this pregnancy test, it start to, let's say, like aggregate itself into big clumps that are actually visible for the naked eye. Okay, usually nano-sized particles are not visible, but when they aggregate together, they get into the microscale, for example, or milliscales, and you will be able to see it again. And then you get the excellent news that probably you are the father, or maybe not, hopefully not. Okay, so this is nanotechnology in the present. But what about its application in nanomedicine? Well, actually in medicine. So the application of this technology in medicine, it has been part of science fiction for decades, okay? Probably all of you are quite young, but in the late 70s, long time ago, there was this science fiction movie, I think was The Fantastic Voyage. I don't know the translation into English, that it was the story about the miniaturization of a submarine, that it was injected inside of a person. Imagine a micro submarine swimming through the cells, killing viruses, bacteria, cancer, and things like that. I think that was one of the beginning of the dreaming of using technology to medicine. Okay, but now with the creation of this technology, nanotechnology, we left behind a dream and start applicating this technology in medicine, usually known as nanomedicine. So in nanomedicine, you utilize nanotechnology, different type of devices, most of those materials, biomaterials, to improve different things. First, understand the body, trying to understand how the body works, how a disease works. Okay, make it easy to diagnose. Try to find out when someone has been infected with a virus, has a disease like cancer, has, I don't know, a genetic disease, for example. And finally, try to give a treatment for that pathology. Okay, try to kill the cancer, try to kill the virus, try to change any molecule that is interfering with the healthy life of a being. That's mostly what is nanomedicine try to do. Okay. For that, as I told you, you use materials. Okay. Everything is made of materials. You know, the cup that I drink in coffee, made of ceramics, the plastic pen that I use to move the cursor in my computer, I don't know, the wires that move electricity. And from the medical point of view, everything is made of materials as well. The sutures when you cut yourself that they use to close the wounds, okay, the prosthetics that needs for someone that doesn't have an arm or doesn't have a leg, or even ceramic material, like for example, when you get a cavity in your mouth, in your teeth, okay, when they fix it, they use materials. But not all of the materials can be used in medicine. Why? Because as maybe you are thinking right now, getting yourself your own answers, some materials, well, doesn't work well with the body. They can be like toxic, for example. they can become poison inside of a body. So certain materials with certain ability to work well with the body are the only type that can be used. And usually those materials are known as biomaterials. Okay, that's gonna give you an idea here. What is a biomaterial? Any substance that is not a pharmaceutical or different stuff, completely other field. We can be natural, like cotton, for example. Silk, cotton, and silk are biomaterials from natural origin. Can be synthetic, most plastics, like for example, for the contact lens, from the syringes and everything, that can be used for a specific period of time. That can be a couple of days, for example, when you cut your finger, a couple of months, like for example, when you're using contact lenses and you need to change it every now and then, maybe a couple of years when you have a prosthetic inside of your hip, for example, or decades actually. That can be a complete or partial substitute of a biological system, like a substitute for a teeth, a substitute for your skin, and so on. We can treat, augment, replace tissues, organs, or function with biocompatible behavior. And here the biocompatible behavior, we can englobe most like that is not going to kill you. Okay, like for example, if you try to use a iron wire inside of, I don't know, to close a, I don't know, a deep cut, for example, most probably that iron will oxidize, and the rust that is left behind, it could be toxic. Okay, or if you use something like unimaginable, but like, I don't know, let's say something like lead, you know, materials made of lead that is a heavy metal. Well, of course, it's probably is going to induce a toxic behavior inside of you. Okay, and I put it here: biocompatibility, sorry, is the ability of some materials to develop appropriate response for a specific applications. Like coagulation response, sometimes you want the material that make your injuries stop bleeding faster, like for example, sutures, band-aids, I don't know, some stuff like that. Sometimes you don't want that. Sometimes you want your material that doesn't coagulate at all. Like for example, when you made an artificial heart, okay, blood is moving in your artificial heart or artificial artery. You want that coagulation response off. You don't want the blood start to coagulate inside of you. It's really, really dangerous. Or for example, make bacteria or cell colonization start or stop. There are different type of effects that can be induced or stopped by controlling the biomaterials, the biocompatibility of materials. And as well as nanotechnology, biomaterials is not something that we can say that is new. Biomaterial has its own history as well. Like, for example, they had been found that in Africa, some tribes use a special type of ants, biting ants, that they bite it. It's quite strong, and they used to use it to close cuts in the skin. Like you cut your skin, they put the head of the ant biting the area, and they cut the body, just leaving the head biting that site. Okay, making one of the first biodegradable sutures, because the head of the ant will degrade with time, and it will fall off usually when the skin is already completely cured. From the other point of view, like for example, here in Mexico, they have been found that the Mayans used to use shells from oysters and stuff like that as bone substitutes for its teeth, especially. And usually with time, maybe you have heard about the wooden legs, this kind of thing, I forgot the name in English, that the pilots used to use in their romantic history, and even the development of artificial organs. Okay, right now, of course, we have upgrade too much about that. We have artificial, artificial like legs, uh, sorry, my kid, internal bone structures. And this big thing that this guy is using here is one of the artificial kidneys. Okay, for person that doesn't, the kidney doesn't work, they have all this equipment to make the work of the natural one, that the natural one is the size of this, probably smaller than my phone right now, like this size. So it's quite big. So that gives us the need that the technology improves even further. Sorry, improves even further to develop this kind of answers to the necessities of health. Like, for example, we have tissue engineering developing right now to make like this artificial nose. We have nanotechnology that is trying to copycat all the behaviors in a kidney to make nanomembranes, filtration device, to purify blood and make, well, artificial kidneys, mechanical kidneys, if you want to say somehow, to, well, replace the natural one. So how can we use these nanomaterials for other things like disease specifically? So some diseases are really difficult, especially those that are produced by bacteria, viral diseases, like, well, right now in the worldwide, we have this viral war right now, and even cancer. And the problem is that for all this, yes, it's a problem. Okay, sorry. There is not a universal treatment. It's not like a antibiotic. It works for every time. Like, for example, bacteria evolve constantly. So most of the new type of bacteria has what is known as antibiotic resistance. So they don't die with antibiotics. There is a huge race to find the next molecule to kill bacteria, because if not, in probably a couple of decades, we could have a very bad response to bacteria. Another type of things like cancer, maybe you can fight it with chemotherapy, radiotherapy, surgery, and so on. But there are many types of cancers. And finally, viruses. Viruses, as the same as bacteria, are evolving constantly, are different type of viruses like DNA viruses, RNA viruses, and so on. So make all of these type of diseases really difficult to treat, especially with chemistry, like antibiotics, chemotherapy, pharmaceuticals. Is really, really difficult. So the first thing is know your enemy, okay? Like bacteria and viruses and cancers, because are kind of biological organisms. Like, for example, we can find that all of those have something in particular. They are made of biological substance that we can understand through chemistry. They have genetic material like DNA and RNA that we can understand by biological fields. And all of them interact at least with our bodies to the immune system. How our immune system find out that our body is our body and no one else. Okay, that's how our body identifies if a cell is just a blood cell or a cell is a bacteria or a virus. So that's how the chemistry part of you get into it. Try to develop molecular bioactives and chemotherapy. Okay, and one of this is trying to deceive a cell. Try to give a cell information to attack these other infections. Okay, try to teach them. And one of these area that is really, really strong is genetic engineering, trying to modify its DNA, even the bacteria DNA, the virus, or teach our own cells through DNA. Because DNA or RNA are the information of the body. It's like the liberties of the body. It teaches the cell how to make anything, how to make a leg, how to make a cell, how to make a molecule. So one way to do it is to use the Trojan horse theory. Maybe you know the legend. You put a lot of soldiers inside of a wooden horse and try to get into the city. The same happened here. Try to deceive a cell, our human cell, and introduce genetic material, artificial genetic material, to destroy its defenses and give the information how to teach them to attack a bacteria, attack a virus, or even attack a cancer cell. And for example, here, like use a fake DNA, an artificial one with our own structure to get into the cells, into the ribosomes. And these ribosomes forget about the original DNA and start making these kind of proteins. And in one of these projects, we use this type of DNA, a synthetic one, small pieces of fragment of DNA that we try to follow inside of the cells. So what you can see here is just a fragment of DNA in which in the X part of it, we have two different things. We have a methylation and we have a fluorophore that make it visible through the microscope. Give me, oh, sorry, there we go. But for doing that, it's not easy. You know, our cells, human in this case, have evolved as well against viruses, against bacteria, and trying to stop DNA to get into the cells. So we need something that make it easy to deliver this DNA inside of the cell. This kind of technology in the nanomedicine is known as drug delivery systems. And when we use nanomaterials with our bioactive ingredients, chemotherapy, phototherapies, genetic therapies, to encapsulate our molecule, our DNA, our chemotherapy, and antibiotic, whatever is needed, through different type of materials, metallic, metal oxides, polymers, even mixes of those like polymers with metal oxide, what is known as composites, to get into the cell. And usually one idea behind this is what I told you about, use the micro submarines. Of course, micro submarines has its own engines and little people drive it. Well, that is impossible. But we can do it through what is known as nano capsules. A nano capsule is the best simulation in real life of a micro submarine. We use different type of materials like the polymers and the metals that I told you earlier. And we make a little bags with the bioactive ingredient inside. Okay. And this helps us, like, for example, first, like some drugs like chemotherapies are quite dangerous just to get in through the vein because chemotherapies are toxic by itself. Some nanoparticles or molecules can have a very high reaction when they are introduced. Like, for example, using some biological ingredients can give you a allergic reaction. Okay, so some kind of protection, some kind of a stealth mode are needed for these biomolecules, like the Trojan horse that I told you. So we make these nanocapsules with polymers that are quite, let's say, edible for the cells. Cells like to eat that materials. And it's really easy. We start with the polymers, special design polymers, like for example, we add the genetic material or we add the bioactive ingredient like a pharmaceutical. We use a little chemistry steps over there and finally get our solution. This is a very concentrated solution. But if we look in the microscope, for example, you can see the idea behind. This is some scanning electron microscope for photographs for our nanomaterial. They're really, really small. We are talking about the scale of 200, 300 nanometers. And maybe you can see some of the little, I don't know if it's visible here, but little dark points inside with the nanoparticles that we try to encapsulate to get inside the cells, some genetic material even so. Having this, we try to do it with DNA or RNA, okay? Usually in real life, most vaccines use this kind of technology. They require what is known as a vector, the wooden horse in the Trojan history here. And the most normal kind of are the natural vectors, usually virus, adenovirus that are specially created with the DNA, the RNA, or even the molecule that is going to use inside. Like most of the COVID vaccines now are based in natural vectors. The problem with natural vectors, it can give you very side reactions, secondary effect, because people are allergic to those. So synthetic as well has been used recently. There's something of the new nanotechnology, nanomedicine application right now, like the vaccines as Pfizer, Moderna, and those use synthetic nanomaterials made of polymer to encapsulate its molecule, especially the RNA molecule. And the idea behind this is use special polymer, usually polymers that react with the pH of the inside the cell. Okay, you can see here a little picture of it, in which inside of it is the RNA or the DNA. So when you introduce it into the blood, the cell, because of the envelope is quite edible for the cell, has sugars and stuff like that, will eat it. Inside of it, when the pH is dropped by the stomach of the cell, it will release everything inside of it. The DNA, the chemotherapy, the antibiotic, whatever is needed, the instructions to fight the virus. Oh, it's not moving. Okay, and this is some results that we got from our lab. We tried to make this artificial a Trojan horse with DNA, with the one with the fluorophore, and you can see some picture of some cancer cells with the empty polymer with non-DNA, with no reaction at all, no showing fluorescence at all. And these pictures over here are with the DNA that has the fluorescence molecule. So the one we use just DNA, free DNA, most anything can be seen. And with the one with the Trojan horse, if you want to say it, it completely getting to stain with the green color because the DNA is inside the cell now. So we proved that we can get DNA inside of the cell, something that was really amazing in our lab at least, because now we can put everything inside of the cell. And in this case, we use this false DNA effect in which we teach the cell how to absorb better a chemotherapy. So you can see the difference between a cell, a normal cell without treatment, in which the concentration of a specific chemotherapy start killing the cell with time. Usually it never reaches 50%, even a very high concentration of the pharmaceutical, but with our system, okay, we reach 50% quite fast. A little bit, some of the experiments around 600, I don't have the data here, it reached the death of the cell, the 50% of the cells dead. And as I told you, these are used now, are in use right now. The technology, we have vaccines as Moderna and Pfizer use this kind of technology. They use this Trojan horse made of different type of polymers PEG, cholesterol, different type of sugar that make it more edible for cells in our body. And inside of it, they have this RNA, the instructions to make a spike. A spike, what is known is the corona of the virus, actually. So using this RNA sequence, they teach our own cells to produce these spikes. And the excess of spikes, not viruses, spikes can trigger the immune system to produce antibodies to be prepared for the actual future attack of the virus. So this is how it actually works. It's just nanotechnology applying in medicine, what is known as, well, nanomedicine. Through this, I want to show you how the technology is evolving, especially nanotechnology applied in medicine, the advantage of use this technology. As I showed you, nanomedicine opens a big door of techniques and approaches to try different diseases like viruses with the corona our days, bacteria for the future when the antibiotic stop working, and even cancer, okay? Improving the already existing medicine, pharmaceutical medicine, for example, and try to diminish or stop completely different side effects like allergic reaction, toxicity of the chemotherapy, just trying to focus in attack the individual cells or teach an individual cells how to get rid of those pathologies. The future looks quite bright for this kind of technology. It's quite a complete area. It's a multidisciplinary research area and needs a lot of people, a lot of young people like you to understand the effect of these nanoparticles in the human body, to understand and recognize and create different strategies to fight all these pathologies, bacteria, virus, cancer. And I don't put it here, but even maybe found another nanomedical approaches for other disease, okay? Like autoimmune disease, like lupus, or genetic disease, like when your body doesn't know how to make a protein, like diabetes, for example, like thyroid infection, disease, for example, when your body forget how to make a specific molecule, teach them through genetics, try to get that information inside the body using these micro submarines, well, actually nano submarines, okay? All of those with nanotechnology, okay? So this is a world of opportunities. There is a lot of research to be needed in Universidad de Sonora and Hermosillo, as an early was presented. We have different programs based on this area: material engineering, biomedical engineering, and of course, a lot of postgrad around the world that you can find in different countries. But anyway, if you need any more of information, please feel free to send me an email. This is my email, paul.zavala@unison.mx. I will be very happy to get deep into any area that you are interested in and probably tell you a little bit of my experience, and maybe, I don't know, in the future work together. Thank you very much. As we say in Spanish, muchas gracias.
Thank you so much, Mr. Zavala, for such a great conference. Now we are going to start with the question and answer section for our viewers. Remember that we are going to be reading the questions you wrote in the chat of APCYS social media. For APCYS participants, please raise your hand on the screen and we will give you the floor to ask your questions. So let's see if there are questions in the chats. All right, so we have the first question for Mr. Zavala. Edgar Lopez says, "Hi, Dr. Paul. Do you know of a web tool where I can see more nanoscale objects?"
A web tool to see nanoscale objects. Well, there are a lot of different characterization equipment to see nanoscale objects. Sadly, like a cheaper one is not easy to find. Usually all the nanoscale technology cannot be seen with the naked eye. It cannot even be seen with light. You need to use a special equipment like electron microscopes. Okay, usually a scanning electron microscope, transmission electron microscope, or what is known as contact probe microscope, like AFM, atomic force microscope. Usually those are the most common equipment used right now to see nanoscale objects. Sadly, they're quite expensive to buy, but some universities have those. Like, for example, in here in Hermosillo, in Mexico, in Universidad Sonora, we have this kind of equipments. I'm pretty sure that probably a university in your country, or if you need any help with anything, maybe we can help you here. You can have access to this kind of equipment. I don't know if I answered your question.
Well, thank you so much. I'm pretty sure it's going to be a very useful information for everyone interested in this topic. We have a second question for you, Dr. Paul. Liz from Mexico asks, are there any biomaterials being developed in Mexico?
From the industrial point of view, there have been a lot of interaction with some of the companies, pharmaceutical companies in Mexico, to develop biomaterials based most on biological, how can I say this, from natural resource material, mostly for cosmetics, like gels for the skin, cream for different type of skin treatments, yes, but mostly that's it for cosmetic. For biomedicine, specifically for cancer, virus, bacteria, and so of the technology that we saw in this presentation, they have been developed in universities, but not yet at industrial level. Like, for example, as I tried to explain early, in our lab, we developed these kind of polymers, biodegradable polymers, that change with the pH. Okay? You can make it dissolve depending of the pH of the environment. But all of these at least need a lot of tests still to be used or at least try to be sold to the industrial level. We need to be 100% sure, just by the bioethical point of view, that we don't want to sell anything that can be dangerous. And we need to be sure making a lot of tests, toxicity tests and things. So it's not really, it's something apart from this, but it's not really easy to move from what is now lab bench into the industry. Okay, you need to be pretty sure that what you are doing is perfectly safe for human use. So yes, just to conclude, yes, there is a lot of this technology being developed in universities and research institute in Mexico, but most of this still has not reached its application in biomedicine, in nanomedicine. The only ones that have been used like this is for the development of cosmetics. Most of this is cosmetics, creams and gels and everything for skin care, in which the material is not going to get into the body. It can be outside of the body, but not into the body. So hopefully this will answer your question.
Well, thank you so much for such an interesting answer. We now have a question from the audience. Diana, could you please turn your mic on?
So graphene is the most popular nanomaterial. So is graphene used for nanomedicine?
Okay. Yeah, graphene is quite popular. The problem with graphene and carbon nanotubes, for example, is another material that is quite popular in nanotechnology, in general nanotechnology, with its application in electronics and solar cells and things like that, is like still we are not 100% sure that it's safe to use in biological beings. not even humans. I can say in a dog or something like that. It's not 100% sure. Like 50% of the publication will tell you that it's safe, 50% it told you that it's toxic. So its application in commercial level, like you will find right now a treatment based in graphene or nanotubes, I think is not available right now. But a lot of technology at basic research level have been focused in trying to use graphene, maybe not like for treat disease like bacteria or viruses, but to develop devices, bio devices like the artificial kidney that I talked earlier, because the graphene structure, like the assemble of the molecule looks like a filter with pores, with nanopores. So this kind of net of carbon atoms can be used to filtrate blood, for example, to separate different type of contamination in the blood. So a lot of research has been done trying to improve that behavior without producing any toxic effect. So yeah, it has been used, but mostly for the fabrication of devices, not for treatments, like virus, bacteria, or cancer. There are some papers, but no come to my mind right now, like a very specific one. But as far as I know, its application is mostly for device, electronic and microfluidic device for filtration.
Thank you so much, Dr. Paul. Now we are going back to the chat from social media. We have a question in YouTube chat that says, "Hi everyone, what is the main challenge for the nanotechnology for the next 5 years? Greetings from Mexico."
Wow, big question. For the next 5 years, 5 years is a very short period of time. But I will say that the next 5 years, it will still be, at least in the field of nanomedicine, a way to start making a strategy for bacterial disease. Right now, we have been starting to get worried, sadly, just starting to get worried, because bacteria has been developing antibiotic resistance. So that means that in the near future, a normal cut that you get, I don't know, playing football in the field could give you to something deadly, an infection that cannot be stopped. Maybe other people would tell you viruses. Yeah, virus is a big risk right now. But in the near future, I think the development of nanotechnology treatment for bacterial disease should be a must. I don't know if I answered your question.
Well, I think we have been learning a lot today. So we have another question here in Zoom chat that says, "Can you comment about traditional nanotechnology from Mexico, please?"
Traditional nanotechnology from Mexico? I think traditional nanotechnology from Mexico. Interesting question. I don't know, we can say traditional nanotechnology, because traditional sounds like something that has been used like years, centuries, or decades, or maybe. But as far as I know, from the history point of view, nanotechnology has been used as, how can I explain this? Well, without knowing, like when you do something, but you don't know exactly how it works, but it works. So it has been used, like, for example, extracts of different plants. Like, I don't know if you are familiarized with the plants in Mexico. There are like a lot of different type of cactáceas, like saguaro, like nopal. These plants that have spikes. And usually these kind of plants have its own well, the blood of the plant, I don't know how to say it in English. The blood of the plant is made of this gel behavior, and it has been used in different type of traditional medicine for stopping blood coming out when somebody cuts, for like a homeostatic. And this kind of web of molecules that this plant produce are very useful. We interacted with the blood, making clocks faster and things like that. Maybe, I don't know if you mean with that of traditional nanotechnology in Mexico. Apart from that, if we want to say about traditional nanotechnology, probably one of the funniest thing that happens like a couple, I think a decade ago, was this research group in a city known as, named Guadalajara in Mexico, quite popular because of tequila. And they make nano diamond films using tequila as reaction agent. So I don't know if that can be recognized as a as a traditional nanomedicine in Mexico. Sorry, nanomaterial in Mexico, using tequila for making nanodiamonds. But I don't know if I answer your question.
Yeah, thank you so much for such a wonderful presentation. We have been getting a lot of good comments about your conference, and as well as many greetings from Mexico. We have Eugenio Urrutia, congratulations from Mexico. Armando Ayala, excellent talk. And we have another question. How have universities or research institutes in Mexico conducted nanotechnology research during the pandemic?
Oh, well, that has been a very, very hard job for everyone. Pandemic time has been a big, how can I say this, bad time for almost every university, I will say, in the world, not just Mexico. But the work made by scientists, by the students, graduate students, even bachelor students, the, I don't want to say the necessity, but we can say like the hunger for knowing more has been keeping us trying to find our more solutions. As well, just for Mexico is something that it cannot be seen like that, because this kind of research is worldwide research. So at least in Universidad of Sonora, and I'm sure that a lot of universities in Mexico is working with a big web or net of a communication with other universities, like collaboration with universities in India, in Japan, in USA, of course, in Spain, in Germany, and so on, to try to non-stop this, even through the pandemic. Maybe doing maybe a little efforts from the point of view that we are not have the complete access to our lab and doing like that, but doing different parts, like, we're gonna make this, you're gonna make that, and we're gonna help each other to keep moving. Don't stop, keep moving. And from our point of view, of course, healthy security behaviors, mask, uh, clean the hands, trying to keep the minimum amount of people needed to the lab to work properly. But yes, it has been a very, very sad time to all of us. I think in the world, sad time, very, very sad, because family goes, um, because of the disease, friends, professors that used to work with us in the lab, they will never come back. This is something sad, but I think the best we can do is keep improving this technology, try to find solutions, not just for today, but for in the future. If this happens, we will be better prepared with more advanced vaccines, with more advanced treatments, not only for viruses, as I told you, for cancer, for example, for a, I don't know, different things that are already a problem in health. There are different health issues right now. So yeah.
Thank you so much once again. We are getting many nice comments about your conference. We have a comment from Miwa that says, thank you very much for a wonderful presentation, as well as from Nikanorov. Thank you very much for such an insightful presentation. And we have this interesting comment as well that says, I read that Maya era people were able to synthesize nanoparticles. Maya blues being found to comprise of nanosepulite and indigo. And this comment comes from Adhikari.
Interesting. Yes, as I told you, when they asked me about traditional nanoparticles, it has been known that a lot of our ancestors, not only in Mexico, in the world, has been using nanoparticles without knowing. Another example of this, maybe no Mayan nanotechnologies, but if we point from the human history in technology, the use of color glass for churches, for example, in the Middle Age, or a different type of or iron work for swords, even in the past, in the Iron Age, for example, they used to complement their cooking recipes, if I want to tell it somehow, with very fine powders of gold, of silver, even some minerals that they didn't know how they have. Like, for example, in India, they used to make special iron ingots to make very powerful swords known as Damascus swords. And they used to increase the mechanical properties of their swords by adding a vanadium minerals, nanoparticle, well, kind of nanoparticles, ceramic vanadium nanoparticles into their ingots. And they didn't know they have vanadium. They didn't know vanadium exists. They just find out that using a special type of powder, they make it more stronger, more resistant to corrosion and stuff like that. So there are a lot of examples in a lot of cultures when they use different type of fine powders, like to trying to improve properties. And until right now that we have this kind of technology like the microscope, electron microscope, and we are able to see what they were made of. Like, oh, look at that old sword that was in a museum for I don't know, 5 centuries. It has nanoparticles. It's something quite interesting to find out that even with nanoparticles is something that we are starting to understand in our days. It has been used a lot of time from a lot of centuries before. That's the thing was, like, we haven't been able to understand until we develop the technology to actually see them. So it's something that is really insightful as well. Like, we cannot believe in something until we can see it. That's important as well of the technology as microscopes and things to see actually what we are trying to understand. So
thank you so much for all your answers. Last question from Liz that says, in your opinion, which has been the most fascinating development in the world regarding biomaterials?
Regarding the specific biomaterials, I think there's a very interesting story about one of the first biomaterial that was discovered. It's not the modern material, but it was one of the first material that was discovered to have biocompatibility. And that material, from the historical point of view and from the scientific point of view, was the one that opened the door to understand that we can develop all of this technology for our days and the future. And this is a story about the one polymer known as polymethyl methacrylate, PMMA. Usually is the material that the plastic lenses like mine are made of, and another materials of transparent polymer usually are made of this PMMA, polymethyl methacrylate. And from the historical point of view, was discovered this kind of bio behavior during, I think it was World War II, when the the bomb, these airplanes, like attack airplanes from the U.S. Army, are they were the kind of airplanes that in the belly of the plane, they used to have a capsule with a machine gun there, so for attacking or something. And the the window of this capsule needs to be made of plastic, because glass is really heavy for this kind of airplanes, specifically when you want to have a missile or a plastic or a glass bell. Well, I think it's more easy to have a plastic bell and more missiles. And the thing is, because it was in the belly of the plane, this kind of plastic, most of the fire, the shooting fire from the ground hit that part of the airplane. And when the bullets hit that part, very small pieces of the plastic used to get into the eye of the soldiers. Something that was really common in that time because of all the war and the fighting and the bullets and everything. The interesting part, it was found that the little pieces of plastic inside of the eye of the soldiers didn't produce anything, didn't produce infection, didn't produce inflammation, didn't produce any type of damage in the eye of the soldiers, because of the windows were made of this polymer, polymethyl methacrylate. And when they finally understand that was the properties of the polymer, like the hydrophobic behavior, the molecular interaction, the way that interact with the body, it gives a big opportunity to develop this material. Like, for example, intraocular lens were developed first using PMMA. The first contact lenses, the one that you put there instead of the glasses, the first one, they were hard. They were not flexible like the new ones. They were of PMMA. And a lot of things were made of that. And then they made little change, like PMMA was changed chemically with what is PHMA, this polyhydroxyethyl methacrylate, just a little change. And that is the polymer that is used right now to make the flexible contact lenses, the one that is like gel and you put it in your eye for see better. Yes, that was a change from that, and evolving from that kind of technology, evolving from that kind of knowledge of the bio interaction. Most of the materials that we use right now, well, they own to this part of the history. With a sad moment like war, make that a capsule made of plastic that they use for a plane, pieces of that get inside of the eye of different soldiers, and they discover like, hey, nothing happened. We can put plastic inside of the people. Well, at least this specific type of plastic, and then it grow out. So I think was one of the most amazing discoveries in sad times, to open the world to the modern biomaterials.
Well, Dr. Paul, we have been fascinated by all of your answers and all the information you have been providing to us throughout this conference. I don't know if there's something else you would like to add or comment to end this conference.
Just something small. Well, small for me, but I think hopefully it's gonna be big for you. I am, how can I say this? I don't know you personally, but I feel very proud of you as young people who are interested in this big in science. And I don't want to ask you to go into the biomaterial field. I will be very proud if you do, but knowing that there is people interested in keep the humanity and science evolving and find solution to them makes me really happy. And I want to congratulate your effort, and please don't miss this opportunity, and keep learning, keep using your imagination, your creativity, and make the world a better place step by step. That will be everything. Thank you very much again.
Well, this leaves me nothing more than to say thank you. I'm pretty sure we all have learned a lot today, and it's just the first day, so imagine. I'm pretty excited for the next days to come. So thanks a lot to Mr. Zavala, and thank you to everyone for watching and being with us today. Don't forget to join us tomorrow and enjoy this exciting program that we have for you. We will start tomorrow with the conference titled Open Source Software as a Key in Humankind Development by Mr. Gustavo Munoz, and don't miss the team leader session too. So we hope you have a nice rest of your day, whatever part of the world you are in. Thank you so much once again, and we will see you tomorrow. Bye.